Well met, Bisley. As promised, we're going to get to use one of the single most exciting tools that's available in Invisible Sun, and that is the Sooth deck. And we're going to use it not in play, although it's very useful in play, but we're going to use this to create interesting NPCs. Now, I use Notion as my campaign journal and notebook, and so I've got a nice database in here for all the NPCs in my campaign. These are some of the currently active ones right now. These ones have already been made, however. We're going to make some new ones or fill out some ones that are not quite done yet. So I've pulled together a list here of a few. And very simply, the Sooth deck is kind of like a tarot deck. It's customized for Invisible Sun, so it doesn't have quite the same suits. It doesn't have the same numbers of cards. It doesn't have a major minor arcana distinction. This is the full list of cards here in the Sooth deck. I'm using the Invisible Sun app, the code of which comes with the black cube. And if you click on any one of these, it'll open up a new window. These are what the cards look like if you have them physically. You can see it's the name of the card. This is the suit, the number, because you can use these as, draw these in lieu of rolling dice. And then for gameplay, it'll have which sun's magic is enhanced or diminished. So in this case, if the Hidden Moon was played out on the Path of Suns during play, it would enhance, the Great Sun magic would be enhanced and the Indigo Sun magic would be diminished. But it also has a whole bunch of other things. So here you can see that it's from the Secrets family. That's the suit. It has a number of meanings. It has a longer description. It has a divination value, so you could use this to ask a question and then draw a card to get the answer. And then it has some suggestions for game narrative on what to do if this is something that is beneficial to a player or negative for a player. But we're only going to roughly use some of these things. With NPCs, the main thing that I've found with NPCs, a lot of people, NPC is non-player character. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. But the thing with most NPCs is a lot of people find that having a name and having a description is really important. I just have documents where I throw interesting potential names into those documents, and same with pictures, same with descriptions. So when I'm making an NPC, I'll often grab randomly or semi-randomly from those lists. There's fantasy name generators. There's other things that you can use for that. So I'm not going to get into names and descriptions. The Invisible Sun books also have a whole list of random descriptions, so you could just pick those. But the more challenging thing with a character is understanding who are they, what do they want? And I found that the most valuable way to get in the head of an NPC for me as a GM is to know what is something that's really focal to them as a character in terms of a defining trait. And that could be a physical description, but it could be a behavior or a tendency or some kind of obsession. And then the other two items are to have them have a goal of some kind. It doesn't have to be a goal that's related to your main concern, but it's a goal that they are filtering what they're doing in this interaction through. They are trying to achieve that goal, and they're viewing this interaction as, how does this fit into that? They also have then a barrier to that goal, something that is confounding them right now. This is their most immediate problem to solve. And so those two dynamics, having an objective and having a barrier, creates the kind of narrative engine to then throw them into any kind of situation and be able to guess how they're going to respond based off of those two things alone. So I use a 3-card draw from the Sooth deck to randomly pull these together. And what I have here, I've picked 9 characters here. You'll see that some of these I've already got some things in. So I've already done cards for Iglamene, Yakitori, and Kyusha, because I've already either got these ready for play, or I've in some cases I've already used them just a little bit. But I want to talk a little bit about how those have worked, and then we'll do some new ones. So Yakitori, I had previously gone through and I had done this Sooth card process for, created a couple dozen different NPCs. I didn't have names or descriptions or anything. I didn't know who these people were yet. I didn't know how I wanted to fit them in. I just had them kind of pre-generated. And so then later, as I was designing new scenarios and kind of planning out for this next campaign, I started looking at, well, these are the characters I've already generated. Do any of these seem to fit the needs that I have for what I'm trying to do with this? And Yakitori was just one where, if I kind of click in here, so the Forgotten Prisoner was the defining trait. Actually, it's going to be easier if I use over here. So let's see, we have Forgotten Prisoner was the defining trait, Conspirator and Devil. There's Devil, there's Conspirator. Cool. All right, so Forgotten Prisoner is the apprentice of mysteries. And here the meanings are injustice, bad fortune, memory loss, something lost, injustice. And so at the time, I had just kind of put it on the idea of maybe this is somebody who was something of a political revolutionary who had been exiled. Maybe this was like a Napoleon type situation, or someone who was too influential for their own good, and they were unjustly cast out, whatever that means. So then if we look at what do they want, we had the Conspirator, which is the defender of secrets. And here it's, upheaval, hidden agendas, gossip. So there may be some kind of plottings of a return to power. And what does that look like? So building, this isn't the completion of the conspiracy. This is kind of the building of it, rebuilding those influence networks, coming back maybe. And so then the barrier to that was the Devil card, which was the nemesis of secrets, which seems very appropriate. Temptation, lies, charm, persuasion, and words. They talk about how a demon is typically a relatively unintelligent engine of violence and destruction. Devils are far more insidious. So maybe this is a betrayal within one's inner network. Maybe this is some kind of someone who's guiding them to act prematurely or act in a way that will undermine some of the goals. So then when I ended up having the need for a character who vaguely fit that description, I had kind of a ready to go, and I was able to kind of mix and match the two. And so what I ended up with was Yakitori, who's an informally exiled Vance, rumored to have returned. There we go. Rumored to have returned in great power. And I tend to have various pop culture associations and other things with this. So for me, the image is Chamber from the X-Men. And because I just love that like glowing power from the chest and the face. And I also was thinking of having him play kind of a role like Vetinari in Discworld's Ankh-Morpork. But then the being unable to see the mouth made me think about another Marvel Comics character, which is Black Bolt from the Inhumans, who was incredibly powerful. And so I like the idea of the exile returns, potentially with this great power. It's rumored, but maybe it's like nuclear weapons level, where because it's so powerful, it can't be used. And there's some ambiguity as to whether or not that power exists or not. So that's what we've ended up, running with that. Some of these other characters here. So I have Aesop, Dorian, Judith, Lefteris, Nell, and Temujin. Some of these I have clearer ideas for what kind of slot they need to fill, and some of them I have no idea yet. So Aesop, I know, is the dealer's dealer. Basically, this is the supplier for somebody who's selling emotion leaves, which is kind of a low-key drug. It's not so much it's not a devastating drug, but it's a drug that's very tightly controlled by a particular monopoly. And this is a supplier who exists outside of that monopoly. So one of the player characters is an emotion leaf dealer. This is her supplier. So I don't know anything about Aesop yet. I came up with a name. I pulled this awesome image from a Coheed and Cambria concert photo because I just feel like that vibe is great. But we'll find out who Aesop is. Similarly, we have another character who is named Jules, who we have played with before while they were traveling. But Jules has come back to Satyrine, and we're going to meet Jules and his parents. And his parents are Judith and Lefteris, and they are on the other side of things. They are on the board, or at least one of them is on the board of the Emotion Mill Consortium, which is the big heavyweight monopoly that Aesop is running on the outside of. So we're going to find out a little bit about them. And Nell and Temujin are goons, but I don't know quite what type and for, toward what end yet. I have several different potential slots to throw them into. And so how they kind of come out will dictate that a little bit. And then Dorian was literally just, plays on words. I think the vibe is cool. I have no idea what I'll use them for, if anything. So we'll get started. What I'll do is as we go, I'll take some notes and drop them in here, and then we'll try to slot them together. So first of all, and what I'm going to do as well, I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll do 6, or we'll do as many as we get through. I'm not going to associate them with characters right away because it's possible that there will be really clear fits for some of these, and it's not necessarily going to be the one in the order that we do. So we'll start off by getting the sense of the characters through the cards independently of this grid, and then we'll draw the connections and figure out which ones go with which. So first card. So we're going to have, this is a defining trait for somebody. So Looming Shade. Looming Shade, it's the 9 of Mysteries, terror, doom, impending danger, unseen threats. Ghosts and spirits lurk everywhere. Most never interact with mortals. Some shades, however, prey upon mortals, looking to feast upon their fear, their flesh, or their very souls. All right, so danger raised its head when this card is turned. It's a threat that comes from an unseen, unexpected quarter. It is the doom that lurks where people least expect it. And definitely associated with spirits, but it doesn't necessarily have to be spirits, which I have to say, I mean, immediately talking about the goons, right? Could be one of those, but not necessarily. Let's hold off on that for a moment. So we'll say, create a table. See how simple. All right, so we're going to have defining trait. Make this text. Objective. Also text. And barrier. And then we'll make some notes. All right, so we've got Looming Shade. Actually, instead of notes here, one of the nice things with Notion is every record you can open up as a page and drop other miscellaneous things. So you have all of your column data here, and then you can just put miscellaneous stuff. So we're going to say Looming Shade, their presence strikes fear, possible association with spirits, incredibly intimidating and or inducing. All right, and we're not going to name it yet because we don't know who that is. Let's continue. I'll keep that there for the moment. All right, we're going to go for objective now. Objective, Whispering Lover. Interesting. Romance, love, partnership, loved one, relationships. Suggests a bond in place or one that will form very soon, positive or negative. The relationship in question remains strong, faces a challenge, etc. Or it could just bring the relationship into play. Interesting. So, Whispering Lover. So the goal is relationship. So this could be maybe reunion with a lover, or would be another good, or maybe this could be kind of Punisher style reaction against the loss of a love, revenge on behalf of a lover. I'm gonna sit with that for a few minutes here. Let's see what else we get. So what's the barrier to them receiving this? It's the golden ship, the two of notions, wealth earned, honor, prestige, respect. Interesting. PC gains a great deal of money. Wealthy or famous person is involved. Someone earns a fortune. Or a voyage of great length or scope occurs. Interesting. So the barrier is the golden ship. All right, so here's somebody who is incredibly intimidating, but underneath it all, they are seeking solace with somebody that they care about, or they're seeking that kind of rest in some kind of relationship. And interestingly, the barrier could be a job. They need to, it could be a job or a trip that is keeping them away. It could be keeping them separated. Because they're striking fear, their job is too dangerous. Until their job is done, they can't risk. Until the job is done, cannot afford to risk danger to their loved one. So they've basically gone off on a job, and until the job is done, or until their maybe tour of duty is over, they're separated, and they can't even contact, because it's such a sensitive job that they are trying to be completely cut off from their past life. They don't want any trace of this job to blow back on the people that they care about. So there, that's an interesting concept right there. I'll just do a summary. Fear-inducing, tour of duty, return to loved one. Let's leave that as a little note there so we remember. Excellent. We're just going to sit with that. We're not going to match that to anybody yet. Can get some of these back up. All right, let's do a second one. So we'll close those windows. Again, this is going to start off with the defining trait. So this one is enticing jewel. Enticing jewel, it's the two of visions. It's associated with the invisible sun, greed, money, beauty, goals, success. This is somebody who they're looking for, the shallow forms of success, in a sense. And when the enticing jewel is turned, everything focuses on it. So this is the obsession, right? The object of your desire is just right at the forefront here. In play, this is much more about succeeding at something, but this feels like a dark obsession for some kind of object or status. I think status is probably more likely. Obsession with achieving a particular form of status and its trappings. Okay. All right, so what's the overall goal? And you might say, well, the goal is status. That's the obsession, but the goal of how that manifests will get changed through here. So this goal will be pursued obsessively, and this is going to give us the details as to what that goal is. So we have dangerous elixir. That is the one of notions. It's associated with indigo and gray. Power, transformation, risk, and consequences. Yes. All right, this card offers power, but at a risk. Power can backfire. An extremely powerful Vizsla is involved. The ultimate transformation. Okay, so this isn't just, let me write that down, dangerous elixir. So this isn't just, I want to achieve a certain kind of status, but I want to undergo some kind of irreversible transformation. And in order to do that, I either need to be the kind of Vizsla that has the power of magic to do this, or I need to convince somebody else to do this for me. So I am seeking some kind of irreversible I'll say physical and psychic transformation. To be determined. We'll leave the specifics of that for the moment. And the goal of this is to keep the specifics light, right? Because this is all very abstract. Nothing about what we're doing is saying, you know, what kind of entity is this? Are they male or female or something else? You know, are they, you know, what do they look like? Unless you're making a defining feature that is in fact physical, most of this stuff is going to be about relationships, about desires, about the inner self, which you can then mix and match with any name and description that you want for a skin for it. So our barrier to the goal is the doctor, the nemesis of visions. And the doctor is an interesting kind of dual card because it's health, but it's also disease. It's dependence on others. It's the help we'd rather not need. So this goes really well in with, okay, you want the dangerous elixir, but dependent on a third party who is reluctant to assist, right? So here we go. You are obsessed with achieving this certain transformation and the status that will bring and all of the trappings that'll bring, but you can't do it alone. And the Vizsla who can assist you are pretty resistant to the idea. And so that's the barrier you need to overcome to see the transformation that you seek. Or maybe it's a ritual that requires a certain number and type of participants. That's another idea. All right, so we have here an obsessive who is seeking transformative, who's seeking other Vizsla, powerful Vizsla. Oops. Oh, I sent it up there. All right, so we have an obsessive who is seeking powerful Vizsla for a transformative ritual, and we can dive more into that. All right, let's do another. Once we get going, this is a pretty quick process, which is why I would do 10 or 12 at a time, and have some rough ones to go with. All right, if that isn't some nightmare fuel for you, right? Harvesting spider. We're back to the defining trait for a new character. So let's see how this goes here. Action, labor, stealth. It's the two of mysteries. This is about silent work. This never stops working. This is about having a consistent ethic, working to specific purposes. Success as the result of action and toil. This is somebody who is diligent. They labor to achieve a goal, etc. That hard work is going to pay off. So harvesting spider. This person is diligent, puts in the work. Toward what? We will see. So toward what? What is the objective? Why work? Sealed door. All right. The sealed door, the 7 of secrets. It's a barrier, delays. It's more a promise than a wall. It's a tease. It stands in the way of victory, or it stands in the way of something. You know, maybe we don't even know what's on the other side, or maybe it's something where you know how to get through it, and it's just a matter of putting in the work. So there is either a literal physical barrier or a social barrier, a social or political barrier that this character wants to get past, either for adventure and curiosity or for power. Generic for the moment. What is blocking them? The ambassador. So they are unable to get through the door. The ambassador is associated with diplomacy, discussion, intelligence from a far-off land, carrying a message of unity and civility, wishes to talk and not fight, calm heads and reason. So the ambassador is the barrier. If reason is the barrier, that implies that this is an unreasonable task. So the voice of reason tries to dissuade. Because the task is impossible, or because it isn't? Don't know. I have some ideas as to which of these to match to which characters, but we'll finish this part of the process first, and then we'll talk through matching them up here. So we have someone hard at work toward getting through a barrier that others are trying to talk them out of. All right, half done. Let's take the next one. Imprisoning ice. Oh, this is a memorable card. I've had a couple fantastic situations with that in play. All right, it's the 4 of notions. Entrapment, imprisonment, danger, and conflict. The very environment holds you fast. Now, this is the defining characteristic. The last time I did this, actually, I'll pull it up here. Last time I did this, we decided that Iskander was literally turned into a tower. Non-consensually. So imprisoning ice. But it could be applied. I mean, that was a very literal application of it, but it could be the idea that someone's stuck in a role that they can't escape, right? So, and I'm tempted to kind of lean more towards that. So, stuck in a role that they cannot get out of, and maybe that's because of some sort of pact that's been made. Maybe they want out. We'll find out what they want. Let's see. Suspicious Hound. Sorry, this is slower because I'm streaming. All right, it's the 0 of visions. Doubt, suspicion, lack of clarity, judgment, decisions. Once it decides you are a danger, that's certainly a bad thing. The Hound is representative of our doubts and difficult decisions. Plagued with doubt and indecision. Judgment must be passed and a decision made, but there's no clarity yet. Oh, that's interesting. So in this case, and you don't have to take things always in the straightforward manner. So in this case here, they're stuck in a role, and maybe their indecision or their lack of information, lack of confidence is keeping them there. What was that? That was the Suspicious Hound. So the goal is to overcome indecision, gain clarity and insight to move forward. All right, and the barrier is enveloping darkness. All right, we're the invisible sun again, restrictions and loss and endings. Darkness is the default. It fills any place the light abandons. Portends an ending, something drawing quickly to a close. Could be death or something that's holding us fast and keeping us from what we want, an end to freedom. Okay, so enveloping darkness. So what I feel like this is, the longer the decision is deferred, the more trapped one is. So here's someone who's stuck. They're stuck somewhere. They can't get out of it. And in order to move forward, they need to be able to act decisively. But it's really interesting. So I have, in the other side of my life, I have a co-founder for my software company, and he and I have an interesting dynamic in that I'm the tiebreaker for some of his deadlocks when he's trying to make a decision about some technical library or something like that. He'll sometimes just call me up and we'll talk through the pros and cons, and there isn't a decisive winner. And I'll be the tiebreaker to say, all right, well, we're going to go left and we're going to take these trade-offs and not those trade-offs and just own that. But that's something where I've known a number of people who really, really struggle with making decisive decisions and move forward when there isn't a decisive right choice or where the trade-offs are significant either way. So this feels like that kind of personality. And they've been putting off the significant decisions, but that's trapping them further. It creates this vicious cycle. So the longer the decision gets put off, the more trapped they are. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 more. All right, defining characteristic, the devil. Wonderful. This is a suave, smooth talker. I love, one of my favorite associations for the devil is Gaunter O'Dim from the Witcher series, and just the way that he casually entraps people. I'll leave it just kind of at that for the moment. Hidden Moon is the goal for this character. So Hidden Moon, new beginnings, looking ahead, foresight, potential danger. This is someone who's really got a vision for something. It's like the business saying where some people shoot the target that I forget how it goes. Anyway, something about how like great visionaries can hit the target that nobody else can see. it looks like a miss until eventually people can see the target. So we'll say hidden moon. This feels very like sociopath executive type. Smooth talker, not in, I'll say self-interested, and able to hit the target others can't see. All right, what's blocking them here? Forbidden game. All right, forbidden game. We have the two of notions, danger, intellect, strategy, and balance. All right, there's a threat here, but it's one that can be overcome with cleverness and strategy. You need to take into account all involved factors. Some of these factors are difficult to see. A leader uses elaborate plans to get what they want. A military leader develops intricate strategies as they prepare their soldiers. Okay, so this is a barrier. So this is something where they're able to see new possibilities, but it requires maybe changing the rules or breaking the rules in ways that others are trying to enforce. Or maybe this is just being caught up in other people's machinations and having that constrained freedom of action. So I'll do two options here. So caught in others' machinations constrains freedom of action, or seeks to play by new rules. One association that I have with this is, I'll actually put it in here, Galileo. In Feyerabend's book, Against Method, he talks about how one of the challenges with Galileo wasn't just that he had these new observations that the church couldn't make sense of. He had new ways of interpreting astronomical data that objectively, by like his new observations in the terms of the old ways of analyzing data, were not good. So what he was offering the new observations and the new measurement for how do you gauge the quality of the observations. And by his new method, his observations were superior, but you had to apply the new rules as well. And a lot of the conflict was really about what kind of epistemological process do you have? So, sorry, what was that? Forbidden game. Forbidden game. So we'll say trying to achieve something others don't even recognize, constrained by their lack of vision. Tries to persuade, which they seem to be good at. All right, last one. All right, so fleeting moment for our defining trait here. Lost time, elusiveness. Time moves inexorably forward. Sometimes it moves so quickly that we lose track of it. Quick and decisive reaction is the advice suggested on this card. This is somebody who could help the other person. One must be ready. This could be a threat or it could be a valuable opportunity. So this is somebody who grabs things. They are very responsive to the moment. Strike at the appropriate time. Okay. So there's a couple ways that we could think about this, but this is, I'll just say strikes at the opportune moment. And that could be meant literally, or that could be meant slightly more abstractly. We'll figure that out. What are they after? The vizier. Manipulation, sycophant, power, and influence. Control from a distance. The nemesis of notions, cannot be trusted. They are looking to be the right-hand man, but it's out of their own personal aggrandizement. It's not out of trying to support whatever office it is. So Vizier wants to be the neck that moves the head. I'll say fiercely throat in the interests of personal advancement, which fits in very well with striking at the opportune moment. This is somebody who saw their opportunity and they just jump at it, no hesitation. That might also be their downfall. Let's find out what barrier they're dealing with. Untrustworthy mirror. Illusion, failure. Can we trust the mirror? Something that appears real is not. Ha. So with untrustworthy mirror, if you think you see something that isn't actually real, but you're the kind of person who will ruthlessly strike at an opportune moment. If you think you see an opportunity that doesn't actually exist, you're going to strike, and that's going to blow up in your face, and that's going to jeopardize this. So we'll just say moved quickly based on bad information, suffered blowback. All right, so ruthless. But overly aggressive. All right, so the ones that we were missing here, we had Aesop, Dorian, Judith, Lefteris, Nell, and Temujin. And like we said, Aesop is kind of like a drug supplier. Judith and Lefteris are a married couple who are both associated with the Emotion Mills Consortium, which is the monopoly that Aesop is trying to avoid. Nell and Temujin are probably some kinds of fixers or thugs or hatchet men or what have you. Dorian, who knows? So let's see if any of these fit strongly. I feel like the Vizier and the Devil associations both potentially fit. The bottom three of these all potentially really fit Judith and Lefteris, and there's kind of a question as to what sort of relational dynamic would we want them to have. So, for example, if this was one of them where they're feeling trapped in their role in the organization, maybe part of the reason that they feel trapped is because of the other one, right? The other one is trying to achieve something, or the other one is overly ruthless. So I feel like let's plug Lefteris in there for the moment, and I'll put Judith in both of these. Leave it open for somebody else as well. All right. Let's see. We have fear-inducing tour of duty, return to loved one. This has got to be like Nell or Temujin. Let's put that as Nell. Feels kind of humane. Dorian, obsessive who's seeking powerful Vizsla for transformative rituals. That's just too a little on the note. I mean, clearly I'm referencing the picture of Dorian Gray, although I've got some other things in there as well. That feels like a very slam dunk. Yes. Someone hard at work trying to get through a barrier that others are trying to talk them out of. So I feel like Aesop could kind of fall into either this one or the devil, hidden moon, forbidden game. He's trying to do something maybe new. We're looking at doing something with maybe there's a new drug type that he's trying to deal that is really, coming at the situation a little bit sideways. How about Temujin? What would fall with that? I mean, Temujin, I feel like could also really easily go here. He went anywhere else. Let's see. I'll put him there, but I feel kind of weak on that. So, all right, let's walk through these a little bit. So we have Nell. I'll need to figure out how to place Nell, which organization he should fit with. But this gives me a bit of a sense as like, he's got something of a code, right? He cares for his loved ones, whoever they are, in a way that he can probably feel empathetic towards other people who feel the same. So, I would my next steps here is I would have some to-do lists. So my to-do list would be, who does Nell have and where are they? Who does Nell work for? And, when do they get to go back? When does the golden ship return to harbor? Dorian, similar deal. It's going to be figuring out like what is the transformation that he's seeking, and what kind of ritual does that entail, and why are people resistant to it? So this is some stuff where like if you have pre-existing slots, great. If not, there's some easy things to kind of slap in there. I'm not looking at using either of these in the immediate term, so I'm happy to just kind of sit on them, let it percolate a little bit, get as you get a bit more of a feel for who they are, you can plug more things into it. I like the idea of the Lefteris Judith tension. And I like, let's keep Judith this one. Temujin here. And Aesop with this, but I'll leave an asterisk because I feel least confident about that assessment. So at this point now, I basically have these done. I would, I'll go through and plug these in afterwards. But basically I'll plug them into here. So we could say, for example, Nell. These are all the different fields that I have in my database, which isn't organized terribly coherently. But we could say the defining trait is looming shade. And this I actually have a database of all the Sooth cards, so I link them up and then I can backlink them, etc. But we'll say looming shade, whispering lover, and golden ship. So objective is whispering lover. Barrier is golden ship. And I'll just throw that in the short description. Just somewhere. There we go. So now that's easily referenceable. I have other views that we can use to look at them, etc. But that gives me enough to kind of run with. So that's how I build NPCs using a Sooth deck. Hopefully that's helpful for you. And at this point, I can now take Nell, and I have several different levers that I can use in a given situation to make any scene that he's in just inherently more interesting. And same for the rest of these characters. So hopefully that process helps enliven your games a little bit. And if you don't have the Sooth deck, use a tarot deck, use whatever. The goal of this is really to help you get outside of the ruts of your own mind, because too often, like if you're if you're trying to come up with characters, especially if you're trying to come up with a whole bunch of different side characters, you're going to fall into the worst stereotypical tropes by default, because those are just the well-paved roads in your mind. And what this process allows you to do is get outside of some of those ruts, because you're taking these completely random inputs and you're trying to square them and make something coherent out of them. And that really flexes a lot of creativity. So thank you again, and enjoy your evening. May your games go well.